Have you ever really, truly looked at your own address? I mean, it seems so normal, right? But what if I told you that it's actually a secret code? A little piece of history that's hiding in plain sight. Yeah, we see these words every single day on our commute, on our GPS, but what do they really mean? Is there some hidden logic behind why one path is called a road and another one is an avenue? Well, the answer is a huge yes, and honestly, it's way more interesting than you'd think. I mean, we've all seen them, right? You've got the quiet little dead-end cul-de-sacs that are so common in the suburbs. And then there are those charming little places, kind of tucked away in a busy city. Or maybe the long, winding lanes that take you out into the countryside. It turns out these aren't just random names somebody picked out of a hat. Nope, they're all clues. They're part of a system that tells a story about the world all around us. So let's start with the big ones, okay? We're going to crack the code on the names that you see the most often. Think of these as the absolute building blocks for understanding our cities. All right, first step, the road. A road is probably the most basic connector you can think of. It's the get me from point A to point B of the street world. Its main job is just to link different towns, or maybe a city to its outskirts. Now, what happens when a road enters a city? Well, that's when it usually becomes a street. A street is defined by what's on either side of it. The houses, the shops, the buildings. It's basically a road that's been framed by city life. An avenue kind of steps things up a notch. The original idea was way grander. This was supposed to be a major path, often lined with beautiful trees. They're usually bigger than streets and really act as the main arteries pumping life through a city. And then you have the boulevard. This is the real heavyweight. So what makes a boulevard a boulevard? It's all about width. They are exceptionally wide, and the dead giveaway is that central median, or divider running right down the middle. So, let's do a quick recap of the basics. A road connects different places. A street has buildings on it. An avenue is a big, important thoroughfare. And a boulevard? That's the widest of them all, usually with that median. Pretty simple, right? But trust me, the story gets way more complex from here. Okay, let's hop across the ponds of the UK, because over there, street names aren't just about size. Here, they're all tied up in the landscape and hundreds of years of history. It's like a fascinating puzzle. Okay, take these two for example. Both a close and a court are basically just talking about a dead end. They're designed to be these quiet, private little pockets for homes. The name itself is a hint at just how short and enclosed they are. Now, this is a really cool one. So a row is exactly what it sounds like, just a neat row of houses. But a terrace actually tells you something about the ground it's built on. It specifically means the houses are built on a slope or a tiered landscape. The name is a literal clue to the topography. And this is where you can really see history baked right into our addresses. Mews used to be these humble service alleys. We're talking stables for horses and living quarters for servants. But today, they've been totally transformed into some of the most charming and most desirable residential streets in cities like London. So we've been looking at all these individual names. But now let's zoom out. Let's look at the bigger picture, the huge, overarching ideas that shape how entire cities get built in the first place. On one hand, you've got the very open, super predictable checkerboard of the American grid system. But on the other hand, the traditional Chinese system was based on a totally different idea, the Fang, which were these enclosed, walled-off residential blocks. The American grid is just beautifully simple. You take a city like New York, and it's a hard and fast rule. Avenues run north-south and streets run east-west. It makes getting around so logical and predictable. The city is defined by the paths between the blocks. In total contrast, the traditional Chinese city was organized like a set of nesting dolls. It was a really clear hierarchy, from the main city wall all the way down to the tiniest little lane. The focus wasn't on the path, it was on the district itself. And this idea of the Fang is the real key to understanding it. Just try to picture a city made up of a bunch of smaller, walled-in neighborhoods. I mean, in ancient Chang'an, they would actually lock the gates to these quarters every single night. It was a system built for absolute order and control. So, you see, whether it's a grid or a block, every city speaks its own unique language through its streets. So let's just look at a couple more fascinating words from this kind of global urban dictionary. The word common is a perfect example. It doesn't describe a path at all. It describes a place. It comes from this medieval idea of shared public land. Think of Boston Common. It literally started as a public pasture for grazing animals. The name itself signifies community space. And hey, if you ever see the word via on a street sign, what you're seeing is a direct link all the way back to the Roman Empire. It's just the Latin and Italian word for road. Its history literally echoing through modern signs in places like Rome, on the ancient Via Appia. So when you put it all together, the big takeaway here is pretty clear. The name of your street is not just some random label for your GPS. It is a clue. It's a clue to its function, its geography, or a little story from its past. Your address is a tiny personal piece of human history. Which really just leaves us with one last thought. The next time you walk out your front door, I want you to take a closer look at that street sign. Because now that you know some of the code, what story does your street tell?